I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're going to start by putting a slideshow on, and Josh Oldweiler, who I'll introduce, is going to start sharing his screen and there it is. Thank you so much, Josh. So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight to learn more about Rotary's foundation and the endowment specifically. We are very excited to share some new resources that will help you share forever by unlocking a permanent source of district designated funds to support your favorite causes year after year. But before we begin, a few housekeeping items. So first, please keep yourself on mute. And note, I think everyone received the notification that this session is being recorded to allow us to share the presentation with others unable to attend this evening. We will provide time for your questions at the end of the presentation. So during the presentation, if you have a question, please utilize the chat box and type your question in all capital letters. Our Regional Rotary Foundation Chair, Lorraine Angelino, will be monitoring the chat box. So please be sure and use all capital letters for your questions. Lorraine, thank you for all you do for us in the Rotary Foundation, and thank you for being with us tonight. Next. So I am Beth Trotter, and it is an honor to serve as the incoming Endowment Major Gifts Advisor and partner with you as we strive to meet the 2025 by 2025 goal and shape the future of Rotary together. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from my predecessor, Chuck Arneson, who has served our zone as your Endowment Major Gifts Advisor since 2021. Thank you, Chuck, for your service. You're a tough act to follow, and I appreciate your continued guidance. Chuck will be introducing Kay Davis in just a bit. Thank you for joining us, Kay. And we also have with us Rich Glover, the Health and Major Gifts Initiative Advisor, along with Kay, who is Basic Education and Literacy Major Gifts Initiative Advisors. We really appreciate you both being here tonight. We also have a team of professional fundraisers on staff who are joining us tonight. New to our zone and the team, but not new to his position or Rotary, is Major Gifts Officer incoming John Teich. John will be serving districts 7670, 80, 90, 7710, 20, 30, 7750, and 7770. You can see those on screen. John, we're looking forward to getting to know you. John's peers, Lori Menzel and Kevin Kelly, both Major Gifts officers, will also be presenting tonight, as will our Plan Giving Officer, Josh Oldweiler. These knowledgeable staff members are here to assist us, so don't hesitate reaching out to them whenever you need their assistance. Our recurring support of the Rotary Foundation's annual fund makes an impact today. Big or small, a gift to the annual fund provides vital support to people who need our help now. And every year that we give, we make a difference in our communities and around the world. What many of us may not know is that there's an additional way to give through the endowment. Gifts to the endowment are nurtured to provide steady funding to our favorite Rotary programs, those same life-changing programs that we support with our annual gifts. The endowment can also magnify the level of our support over time. Think of it as planting the seeds to grow more apples, a lot more apples. And here to tell you more about our endowment is our Endowment Major Gifts Advisor, Chuck Arneson. Chuck, over to you.
Thank you very much, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. 100 years ago, we couldn't have predicted the effort required to eradicate polio worldwide, or the devastating impact of a pandemic on the lives and livelihoods of millions of people around the world. But Rotary was ready to respond. partly because years ago, individuals and families gave to the endowment so that Rotary could act when and how it was needed. Our endowment is crucial to our ability to respond to changing times. Arch Klump proposed an endowment in 1917 because he knew that Rotary's tomorrow depended on what we do today. The endowment now produces millions of dollars each year from its investments to improve lives in the community. Your Rotary legacy is a tribute to your generosity, your philanthropic vision, your dedication to service, and your core values. Rotary's endowment will ensure that you never stop doing good in the world. Supporting the endowment is different from other giving. Gifts to the endowment supply perpetual funding, whereas other kinds of gifts are used up in full. The Rotary Foundation's goal is to build the endowment for greater security. And every gift of any size gets us closer and closer to our goal. The potential impact from a legacy structured within Rotary's endowment is extraordinary. Now this is my favorite slide. You can tell I get all excited. This is an example of a gift or how they are invested and professionally managed, providing ongoing support for Rotary's local global humanitarian efforts without spending the initial gift. For example, on this screen, $25,000 yields $1,000 in spending earnings every year, the same level of support as a Paul Harris Society member. Just think of it. For $25,000, you can be a Paul Harris Society member forever. And another example, which isn't on the chart, but is the same chart slope. $2,500 makes $100 a year available to the foundation. That would make you and every Rotarian every year in perpetuity. This kind of giving enables your legacy to provide funding to Rotary programs every year and your gifts to the annual fund. Now I'd like to introduce Kay Davis. Kay Davis has been a Rotarian for over 30 years. She's been a past district governor, a past district Rotary Foundation chair, a past regional Rotary Foundation coordinator. Kay has received many, many awards, but I will say that the most prestigious award she has received is the Service Above Self Award, Rotary's greatest award. She's currently serving on the Rotary Basic Education and Literacy Major Gifts Initiative Committee, but Kay loves the foundation and she's with us today to tell you her Rotary story. Welcome, Kay.
Thank you, Chuck. And I thought I was going to give a $100 donation to the foundation to keep you from doing that introduction. But thank you anyway, and I'll still do the $100. As Chuck said, I've been a Rotarian for more than 30 years. That's really hard for me to believe, but it's true. And all that time, I've been a supporter of the foundation in some way. Since I think the Rotary Foundation is the heart of Rotary, most of my Rotary life is centered around promoting support for our foundation. Until the past few years, my financial support has consisted primarily of contributions to the annual fund and to polio eradication. While I continue to support those two funds and will, as long as I'm in Rotary and capable of doing so, I began to look more closely at the endowment fund when I was recently reviewing my estate planning. As I thought about leaving a Rotary legacy, I realized that the endowment fund provided ways to accomplish my goals. So currently, I'm completing a 3-year pledge to establish a named fund and the foundation for impact while I'm alive, so sort of immediate impact, and have added the foundation as a beneficiary on my IRA for even more impact after my death. So doing something now in terms of a cash contribution and then later in terms of a bequest. My professional career was spent in education. So when I started looking at what my focus was going to be on my named fund, basic education and literacy was a natural choice for me. It fits what I've done, what I love, what I truly believe in. So it is good for my Rotary legacy. Studies have shown that if children are not reading on grade level by the time they reach third grade, they are going to be struggling with reading and keeping up for the rest of their life, certainly during the rest of their years in school. I've had students in my classes who were struggling because they could not read and comprehend what their textbooks were saying. Reading truly is fundamental to succeeding in any level of education. I've seen that so much. Education also, though, is a powerful tool for empowering girls and women, and this definitely speaks to me. I've experienced education opening doors for me that weren't there for my mother and for her sisters. And I've seen the impact it's had on opening doors for some of my students. One example is Tiffany, who, when I first met her, was a single mother, dependent on welfare and barely getting by, when she, through Pell Grant and other opportunities, was able to enroll at the regional campus here in Sumter. She now has become the first college graduate in her family. She's a successful business owner, owns her own business, and is a positive role model for her son and for others in her family. She's an active volunteer, and I hope to soon be able to induct her into a Rotary Club and think what a legacy then she can create. There are many other examples I could share from my experiences working with and mentoring women who are first-generation college students. They truly are inspirational to me, and I want to see that work continue after my life. Recent UNESCO statistics estimate that 7 out of 10 children in low and middle income countries are unable to read and understand a simple text. This is referred to as learning poverty. Can you imagine in your own life not being able to read and to understand? What would your life be like? My dream is that my limited support of basic education and literacy through an endowed fund will have a positive impact now and beyond my lifetime on Rotary's efforts to increase access to basic education and to eventually reduce the level of learning poverty in the world to zero. That's what I see as my Rotary legacy.
Thank you so much, Kay. Really appreciate that. And your story and your commitment to giving back. And now we're going to hear from Lori Menzel. Lori, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Wow, Kay, thank you so much. What a wonderful way and a great illustration of this, of what we're going to talk about next. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey as you've decided on your Rotary Foundation giving. So she really illustrated very well about the endowment fund, about giving now and giving later. I don't know that a lot of Rotarians realize they can give to the endowment right now, especially to see the impact of the giving that they're doing. And so you can make outright gifts of any amount to the endowment. I always like to say $1, $100, $1,000, $1 million. You can give now to the Rotary Foundation endowment. You can also think about it later. What does it look like when you decide to plan that gift like Kay did and said, okay, I'm going to give now and establish my fund, and then I want to grow it later through my estate giving. And so it's a wonderful way to put those together really to increase your giving. So let's talk a little bit about the different things that go into the endowment. So let's say a Rotarian decides, like Kay did, okay, I want to give to the Rotary Foundation endowment. What can I give to? Right? You know, in an annual fund, right, you get to select the designation that you can give to. It is exactly the same when it comes to the endowment. So for tonight, though, we're just going to stick to 2 designations because you know we have many, but let's start with World Fund, right? World Fund is such a wonderful way to give to the Rotary Foundation, our unrestricted giving. You probably know with annual fund, right? It's that important match for global grants or that match for polio. Or perhaps when we need it the most, the priorities that happened when COVID happened. Rotarians were people of action. They wanted to do something. And so the trustees realized this and said, you know what, we've got to transfer money to our disaster response fund so that Rotarians in districts can access these wonderful disaster response fund grants and help people who need it the most. I think when we talk to Rotarians about World Fund, when they're thinking about giving in the future, right, through their estates, they sometimes choose World Fund because they say to me, you know what, I don't know what Rotary is going to need. I don't know what Rotarians are going to need in the future, but I trust the Rotary Foundation to use my gift wisely. And so I want to give it to World Fund so that I know it can go to the priorities that will happen in the future. So sometimes Rotarians will choose World Fund for their gift. Now, it will probably not come to any surprise to you that our most selected designation for the endowment is share, right? We hear about annual fund share a lot in our districts. Why? Because it supports our programs today. But what about the future? Did you know as a Rotarian that we have endowment fund share? And so if you're supporting share today, endowment fund share might be the designation that you might select. I believe it's over 80% of our designations for the endowment are for share, which again is not surprising because it does bring in those district designated funds. We looked yesterday because we were talking about it. We said, well, just how many or how much district designated funds comes into the endowment? And for Zone 33, over $187,000 in district designated funds came in through the endowment. Just think of what that's allowed all these districts and Rotarians to do. It provides that long-term sustainable funding, you know, in addition to the annual fund share that will come in each year. And so if you're thinking, I want to provide that long-term funding, I want a gift every year, I want something to come in every year, then endowment fund share is something that you might consider when you are doing a designation to the Rotary Foundation endowment. And as I said, we have many other designations that you can choose from as well, right? Kay mentioned Bell, all of our areas of focus, and our Rotary Peace Centers. So once a Rotarian on this journey that we're on has said, yes, I want to make a gift to the endowment, and they decide, okay, what does that designation look like? What do I want to select? Then it becomes, how do I do this, right? What type of asset do I want to use to do this gift? Some Rotarians will put the Rotary Foundation in their will for a percentage or perhaps a dollar amount. That is one way that you can do a bequest. Sometimes you might hear also bequest or planned giving or estate giving. You know, really it's all really the same thing. It's all thinking about that gift that's going to come in the future after you're gone. One of the tools that we have for that you can use when you're making a bequest, perhaps you don't have an estate planner, you can use freewill.com. The Rotary Foundation has a partnership with Free Will, and just go out to Free Will. You can make your will, you can select the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, you can select the designation, and you can decide if you want to notify us or if you don't want to notify us, and we get that information. And if you send it to us, and we can reach out to you and say, thank you very much, and just talk to you about your gift. One of the things I want to bring up is why notify Rotary. I've heard Rotarians say, well, I've left Rotary in my will, or I've left it as a beneficiary designation, but I haven't told you. And I will say, you know what, we hope that you will tell us. And they'll say, well, you know, why do you want to know? Well, because we want to make sure when your gift comes in that we use it the way you intended. Because if you don't tell us, we don't know. And when your gift comes in after you pass away, we can't ask you. So it's really important that you let us know to make sure that we can document it and use your gift as you intend. So as about wills, sometimes Rotarians put the Rotary Foundation in their will, but a couple of other ways that you can do this is you can designate the Rotary Foundation as a beneficiary. So perhaps of a life insurance policy or maybe a retirement asset, such as an individual retirement account. Sometimes Rotarians have life insurance policies. You purchased it a long time ago, and your kids are grown, the house is paid for, your significant other is taken care of, and you think, okay, do I still need this? What might I do with this life insurance policy? And that's when sometimes you say, you know what, okay, I'll do a beneficiary designation for a percentage to the Rotary Foundation and leave that gift perhaps to Endowment Fund Share or to World Fund or any of the other designations that we have. Or maybe your retirement asset. Make the Rotary Foundation a beneficiary of a percentage of a retirement asset is also, I would say those two are very popular, and retirement assets that beneficiary designation continues to grow in popularity with fellow Rotarians. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Major Gift Officer Kevin Kelly.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks for having me here and being able to have the opportunity to present to you all. It's no secret that the Rotary Foundation enjoys providing recognition materials. And with those, you'll see on the left and the right, the immediate gifts, or we should probably call this cumulative giving. Cumulative giving to the Rotary Foundation allows you to become a major donor if you achieve $10,000. So that is cumulative giving and has nothing to do with your Paul Harris points. And so sometimes that is a bit of a confusing element to our Rotarians. Cumulative giving just when it comes to giving to the Rotary Foundation. And as you'd expect, we have multiple levels that go along with after $10,000 for $25,000 up to $50,000, then $100,000. And then once we reach $250,000, you're considered an Arch Clump Society member. Individuals that make commitments, I'm going to highlight the benefactors at $1,000 here in just a minute, a bit more in depth. That's something that we're probably going to be seeing many more Rotarians taking advantage of. But the benefactor program of those that have named the foundation in their estate for at least $1,000. The Bequest Society is the same levels, just as major donor. You become a Bequest Society member if you tell us that you've named the foundation in your estate for $10,000, and then it goes up from there. Bequest Society level 2 is $25,000, $50,000, $100,000. And then the Legacy Society are those individuals that have told us that they have left $1 million in their estate. And just some new news that you'll see coming out is the Legacy Society members are receiving the same type of recognition when they go to a convention, you'll have an opportunity to be a part of the Arch Clump Society recognition element of the room that you get to participate with. Sorry, went off script there for a second. The next introduction that we'll have coming up is this the Rotary's Promise Club. Rotary's Promise Club is very new for this year. Josh and I were trying to chat yesterday of how many we actually have within the Rotary world. And I think I've heard a rumor that there's just one that we have in North America. The Rotary's Promise Club is when all the club members have decided that they will name the foundation to at least receive $1,000 from their estate to the Rotary Foundation. So everybody has decided to become a benefactor. And if you do, then you'll be recognized as a Rotary's Promise Club. And I think Josh has more materials that you'll see, a plethora of materials that'll be available through this presentation at the end. The next slide, I'm going to frighten Beth because I'm going to go completely off script here. So I apologize in advance, Beth. But I think this is really where we build a culture of philanthropy within your district and how we might be able to assist you as major gift officers and endowment major gifts advisors. In a minute, you're going to see, as I had mentioned, a lot of resources that are going to be available to you and to be able to utilize within your district. And you might be thinking to yourself, we don't have a robust Bequest Society membership in our district, or we're not sure how we should find major donors. I don't know if we're in a position to be able to use all these materials. Or you're on the other side of the spectrum of we've got a very robust giving program. We've built that culture of philanthropy, and we're ready to make the next step with a large campaign, whether that's be $1 million dinner. The long story short is, I think, with our experience as professional staff and volunteers, our goal is to work with you in helping build a culture of philanthropy. It usually starts small, but I'm confident with how successful the Rotary Foundation is in our communities, in our districts, and worldwide. We know that once we plant that seed, that we can start to paint a picture of how the Rotary Foundation can impact you individually, but also holistically throughout the world through the work of the Rotary Foundation. So that's where I think us as a staff member and you as a district leader, where we can take the next step in helping you build that culture of philanthropy within your district. So with that, I'm going to flip it back over to Chuck. Chuck, can you take it from here?
Certainly can. Thank you, Kevin. In 2016, the trustees approved an ambitious goal to increase the endowment by $2 billion and some change by year 2025. I'm sure you've all seen this chart by now. There's a lot of numbers on it. They could be confusing to simple people like myself, but there's only one number I need to focus on, and that's the one right in the middle. We have $450 million left to raise in the next 2 years. To do that, we need to help our Rotarian friends and neighbors understand the significance of 2.0 by 25. There's more to this goal than just a catchy name. It's about the impact. Talking about the impact, last year, the endowment produced 27 million in spendable earnings for the Rotary programs, the highest level ever. When we reach our goal of $2.025 billion, and with your help, we will, the endowment is projected to generate approximately $50 million every year in spendable earnings. That is an amazing figure. With just that small increase in the donations, we can double our impact. Can you imagine how many communities around the world will flourish with that level of support? By raising the awareness in your district and cultivating gifts to share through the endowment, you will create a permanent pipeline of district designated funds, allowing future leaders to budget year after year, sustaining the programs that are a vital part of the club culture, while also pursuing projects on a larger scale. This goal allows us to dream bigger so we can show the world what it means to do good, how to do it well, and the power of doing it together. Now I'm going to turn this over to Josh. Josh, I just met Josh, but Josh is the Plan Giving Officer for all the districts in Zone 33, charter member of the Evanston Club of Nouveau Rotary Club. That's a new one on me. His primary focus is structuring commitments, donor advice fund, and life income agreements, and he'll talk to you anytime, day or night. Actually, he's very close to his job. He lives just down the street from the headquarters in Evanston. And he's also done a lot of work on the Endowment Awareness Program for 2.0 and 2.5. He's going to talk to you today about the district guide to growing the endowment. Take it away, Josh.
All right, thanks a lot, Chuck. So we've talked a lot about the importance of the endowment and different ways that we can personally support it. But as leaders, I'm sure you're thinking a lot about how you want to share this messaging, how you want to tell others about it. So we put a lot of effort into designing this new district guide. And before I show it to you, there's a little list here. Don't read through it. I'm gonna go back for a second. There's a lot here. The idea of the guide is that you have everything you could possibly need to design a custom plan. It's not that you do everything, as Kevin was saying earlier. It's that you get a lot of ideas and think, oh, this is a great fit for this goal, and this will help us with this. So as we get into the resources here, it's about sparking ideas and different ways you can design these strategies. Don't get overwhelmed thinking that anyone expects you to use everything on this list. Okay, so the district guide is a 3-page document, and these are snapshots of it. We'll send you a PDF after this. You can look at it anytime by going to rotary.org/shareforever. And it provides an overview of how to raise awareness, as well as some basic ideas. Links to some of the key documents are also in here. But once you go to that website, It will also have all the resources that you could need to pursue a Rotary's Promise Club or to start cultivating gifts of $25,000. If you're ambitious and you're hosting a $1 million dinner and you want to start promoting bequests, or you want to host a presentation on life income agreements, there are different resources there for that. It's all there, and this document provides some context for that. So that's probably the first step you're going to make after tonight. One nice thing about the website is it's organized based on your goals. So again, if you want to focus on Rotary's Promise Clubs at that, promoting gifts at $1,000, if you know you don't have a very robust culture of philanthropy in your area, that could be a good place to start. We have lots of materials for that. If you have a lot of outright major gifts, a lot of Paul Harris Society members, if you have a lot of Bequest Society members, you might focus on that power of the endowment with the named endowed funds to amplify long-term impact and push for some named endowed funds and help people understand the power of having their own legacy, thinking about maximizing their impact beyond the gifts that they make during their lifetime, or maybe doing what Kay did and structuring something during their lifetime with outright gifts that they can build on later with other types of gifts. And then there's also a section on some of the giving options that I tend to focus on, the donor advised funds and the life income agreements, which have some other advantages to them. So the first thing you'll see is an endowment awareness presentation, which has a few of the slides that you've actually seen today. It's full of talking points. You can just pull it up and model it for clubs in your district, or you can send a link to the club leaders and encourage them to give it, whether they're foundation chairs or club presidents. It's just introducing the idea of the endowment at the club level. There's also a newsletter about the Rotary's Promise Club, again, just introducing the concept. There's an overview of the Rotary's Promise Club, which goes through the context of why we have it, what the different criteria are to qualify for it. It answers a lot of those basic questions, so you don't need to worry about sending your questions to the support center or trying to contact one of us. There's the legacy video, which I'm sure most of you have already seen. It's on the legacy website. And that's another key takeaway that you'll have from the presentation today is the Share Forever website is a brand new website just for you to use as leaders. It's completely separate from the legacy website, rotary.org/legacy, where donors go to learn more about leaving a bequest or a beneficiary designation. There's a whole new set of ads that are licensed for you to use wherever you like in your newsletters or at events, any kind of publications. There's the newsletter that's just talking about bequests and beneficiary designations. A lot of times donors, as Lori pointed out, aren't necessarily comfortable talking to someone about it up front. They might be comfortable talking to someone in the club as opposed to talking to someone on staff. So this is a great way for them to start thinking about what they want to do and learn about it without necessarily connecting to an expert. This is a document that will hopefully look familiar to most of you. It's been around for a while. It's the Your Rotary Legacy brochure. It has all of the highlights of what you would need to know if you wanted to leave Rotary in an estate plan. It has some language in there. It has an overview of the recognition options, and it also has a copy of the form that someone needs if they want to receive recognition. This document is new. So this is an overview of all the naming opportunities if someone were to set up a named endowed fund. So it goes over all the different causes that can be supported, what the different levels are. So there's different levels of customization that can be provided. So once you get them thinking about what their long-term goals are and what impact they want, then they can work with an officer to sort of figure out how to put the puzzle pieces together to accomplish those goals. The Endowment Gift Recognition Guide just helps you break down all the different options there are. And there's a lot. And that idea is just that we all give what we can. And it all qualifies for different types of recognition. Kevin sort of went through the different tracks with the cumulative giving and the commitments. So here it just provides a very thorough breakdown of everything in one easy to access place. I mentioned earlier the life income agreements and the donor advised funds. We actually have 2 slide decks available on the Share Forever website that I'd be happy to work with you on if there's a particular club, or if you wanted to get a group together and host some kind of event or presentation. If there's a lot of interest in life income agreements, a lot of people don't know that they can get major donor recognition for making gifts to the foundation that provide them with income for their lifetime. There's different ways to give besides just writing a check. So that's available to them. Some people get very excited by learning that they have different options. There's also the donor advised fund presentation, which it could be a little tricky, especially when you get to the Q&A. So I'm always here to support you with that, as are the major gift officers.
Thank you so much, Josh. Wow, that was a lot that you went over here for us, but I'm really thrilled that there is so much material for us and so many options. So you may ask, what's next? What do we do? What do we do with the resources? Because we have access to so many, whether it is our staff partners or the materials that have been provided here. So our recommendation, the first step might be to share the endowment video at one of your events. We also are asking that you consider recruiting, and some districts already have these, a district endowment or major gifts committee chair or subcommittee chair that we will work to train as the resident expert to help you with discussing all these options with your clubs. We also would like you to take more time to review the district guide that's there, the new information, and share it with other foundation leaders in your district so you can determine together what tools are best needed and used for the areas that you serve. Some of you have already got $1 million campaigns in the works. That's great. Let us know how we can help you with those. I'm also intrigued by the lack of clubs that are already promise clubs. So one idea I have is let's put a challenge out there to get some promise club campaigns going. Chuck and I are standing by to support you along with all of the wonderful people on our foundation staff team. We'll be in touch to help you brainstorm ideas and build a custom strategy for your own district. Right now, it's time for your questions. So has anybody entered anything into the chat box? Lorraine, do we have anything in there?
I have one question.
Okay.
Oops. It went away. Will you please speak to the Peace Center endowment areas of focus and/or other specific endowment giving opportunities?
Sure. Who wants to take that? Lori? Okay.
Sure, I'm happy to do that, and Kevin or Josh jump in as well. We have actually many different ways that you can give to the Rotary Peace Centers based on the financial level that you want to do. So beginning at $25,000, you can give general support to the Rotary Peace Centers, and then it increases up there with regards to what you can actually endow, maybe a Rotary Peace Fellow certificate, or maybe a Rotary Peace Fellow in the graduate program each year. So it just kind of depends on your interest and what you'd like to do, and we can work with you on structuring that type of gift.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay.
Endowments that I know about in my own district used for peace centers, and I think it is just an amazing way to give back. And if you ever have the opportunity, if you haven't visited the Peace Center in our own zones at Duke and UNC, I encourage you to do that. So thanks. Lorraine, another thing popped up. Geetha, I see, wants to hear more about life income agreements and talk to Josh about starting a giving club. Okay, so life income agreements.
I guess I should probably take that one.
Yep.
I just kind of brushed over that, I suppose. So the idea of a life income agreement is you make an outright gift of $10,000 or more. And you can either set up a gift annuity for $10,000 or a trust for $100,000 or more. And that gift is set aside to provide payments to one annuitant or trust beneficiary, whatever the case may be, or two, depending upon how you set it up for the rest of your lifetimes. The rates vary based on age for the annuitants. The trusts are generally 5%. They can be funded in different ways. Annuities are, and now I'm really getting into that PowerPoint that's on the website. The annuities can be funded with appreciated securities or cash. There is a new IRA option that was passed with recent legislation, effective January 1st. And the nice thing about the CRTs is the trust is you can use gifts of real estate for that. So it's nice to have those different options available when someone has a unique asset that they want to use rather than cash in the bank.
You know, right now, Josh, annuities are frowned upon. People are not saying that they're very popular. They're supposed to last your lifetime. Some of the differences that I have found is donor advised fund, annuity, any of these things that you give to the Rotary Foundation, once you pass away, there are differences in the way Rotary handles it as opposed to Charles Schwab or some other company like that. Can you tell me what the differences are?
After you pass away?
Yes. So
Okay.
the fee is, so there are differences in the fees of handling of your amount, whatever that amount is. There's a difference in the fee structure for Rotary as opposed to Charles Schwab or some other company like Morgan Stanley or whatever. And what happens after you pass away? Can you tell me what the differences are?
Oh, okay. Typically with annuities, we're not looking at it as a vehicle competing with commercial annuities. We're looking at it as a charitable gift. So I'll look into that a little more. But the way it's set up is the rates are set aside. The idea is that 50% is coming back as payments and 50% is going toward the remainder at the end of your lifetime. It's there. That's why the rates change based on age, and it's pretty standard for nonprofits. So the fees are competitively low, and they're higher than they have been or not the fees, but the rates themselves are higher than they have been in the past 10 years. So I was surprised to hear you say the annuities are not very popular right now.
That's what I just read it in the New York Times. So I'm just wondering. Thing is, it would be these are the questions people ask you when you say give money to this or that, use this donor vehicle or whatever. And it would be very nice if we had like a table with comparisons, like Morgan Stanley or Charles Schwab or whatever, some other comparable, institution as opposed to Rotary. What is the fee structure? How will the money come back to your service or your chosen area of endowment, whatever that is? What will happen when you pass away? And what can your children then do with it if you have children? Those are questions I think people ask, and it'd be nice if we already had a chart prepared for this. The other thing that I think is going to be very helpful, I believe, is to have donors talk to one another. We never do that. We never allow them to sit down and chat with one another. And Laurie and I are going to do this in my area, where we get people who give to talk with one another to see what other ideas they may have, because I find that much more persuasive. If A says to B, you know what, this is what I did with my estate, here's how I provided for my children. I'm not concerned about A, B, or C anymore. Then it persuades the other person to give. So.
I think that's a super idea.
Yeah, that ties into what Kevin was saying about that culture of philanthropy.
Yeah.
I really haven't encountered many gift annuity donors or donor advised fund donors that were disappointed.
Well, and that was my next question is, how many people give you a hard time after they've passed away? How many people's children or estate or attorneys give you a hard time about the fact that they left the money? Do you ever get someone contesting it?
I have not encountered that, no, because we're very clear that at the end of the lifetime, it goes to the Rotary Foundation, and that's their goal. A lot of donors end up setting this aside rather than an estate plan.
Yeah.
They consider it their estate plan, especially with the life income agreements. Sometimes with the donor advised fund, they'll build it up with the intention that an amount will go to Rotary at the end of their lifetime. It's very interesting because it gets very complicated. And again, some areas aren't even aware that this is even an option. So when you're getting into details like that, it goes right over people's heads and they don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. So that is true.
I think one thing that we'll do is follow up on this, and it's great that we have so many experts on this call and resources that we can turn to. In the sake of time, because we did say that we would be winding down about now, I saw one other hand raised. Bernie, did you have something that you wanted to?
Yes, thank you, Beth. It's not a question. It's just really an FYI, a comment. Nancy and I, just a short time ago, wanted to set up a named fund. And I'm a polio kind of guy, so we wanted to set up a named fund for polio. And we worked with Carl, and Carl said, no, you can't do that, because polio is one of those things that's going to end. It's going to end sometime. So you can't really set up a name fund for that. So we had to back off and set up for, I forget what it was, something like disease prevention. And so that's what we did. And but I think when you talk about that, you can't just name anything. That's the only reason I bring this up. You can't name anything. It has to be something that is, I guess, something that will go on forever. And hopefully,
areas of focus right now.
Okay, that's all I had to say.
Thanks, Bernie. And again, I think that these specifics and examples are great for bringing forward with our NGOs, Lori, Kevin, and now John. And we're sorry we are losing Carl. He's been a friend to many of us in our zones. But John, we're happy to get to know you as well. And we're very grateful, Lori and Kevin, to have you on our teams as well. So with that, if there are any other follow-up questions, I encourage you to send us an email or reach out and give us a phone call. I am going to be personally contacting each TRFC and district governor incoming, the district governor-elects, after we get back from Melbourne, and I hope to see many of you in Melbourne. So with that, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your time, and thank you to all the team that presented. That's it.
When will the recording be available?
I think in a few days, and we'll send a notice out. We're going to have it uploaded, and Billy Black is taking care of getting that for us loaded, so it will be available through Zone 3334.